Bear with me, guys. This is going to be my first, well, it's not really my first how-to video, but this is going to be basically how to play Risk Office Politics. Since a bunch of people apparently can't understand that the rules are extremely simple, they, I guess, have to have somebody do it for them. Show them what it means. Okay, initial setup is basically simple. Each player gets one of these cards that you shuffle them up. Each one of these cards, each one of these 6 cards will represent one of the 6 spaces on the board. Nobody gets to own human resources. Human resources is where you get to recruit at the beginning of your turn when you get reinforcements. Human resources is where you get to recruit reinforcements. You have sales, marketing, creative, engineering, finance, and shipping. The object is to get one manager and at least one manager and at least one intern in every department. In a 2-player game, you each get 1. In a 3-player game, you each get 2. And in a 4-player game, each one of you also gets 1. And those are the colors. For sake of argument, I'll do a 4-player game. These go on all the spots of the board except stars that someone has people on. All 8 donuts must always go with whatever group is there. The rest are put in a discard pile for right now. So the board will look like this, and then you'll put your people on the board. Again, you only start with 1 manager and 1 intern. I'll go through each step of the rules and show you how you get more. And they will start where you drew what card you got. That's where they would start. Now what you'll do is you'll take the office drama cards, you'll shuffle them, and you'll deal 3 to each player. Now these have different uses. Which I'll explain. They can be used at different points of the game, which I'll explain in a minute. So your game should look something like this for setup. Here is the order of play. First you do case office drama. Now to do case office drama, say red goes first. What he can do is he can use one of his cards Now on the first turn, there's not really going to be the ability to use these cards. But as you progress during the game, you'll be able to use the cards, because some cards can be used at the beginning and some cards can be used at the end. Some cards can be used when having like basically office battles, and some cannot. Step 2 is recruit. Recruit allows you to take one of your interns and place him in any one of the squares in human resources. You get 1 intern per territory you control. So, if you own more than 1 territory, or at the beginning of your turn, at the very start of your turn, you'll only get 1 intern. So, let's just do that. So, you get 1 intern. You're allowed to put them in any of these break rooms. Now, the object is to get 1 manager and at least 1 intern in every... And if you're playing the main game, in either 4 different departments or 1 in all 6 different departments if you're playing the long game. So, now to do that, you would have to get 3 interns together to make a manager, which goes later. Advance. Now, advance is simply when you roll the die. Oops, my bad. That's not what the rules say. It does not say roll the die. Advance, you are allowed to move all of your pieces. Manager pawns can move 2 workspaces per turn. Intern pawns can move 1 workspace per turn. And donut pawns can only move with a manager or intern. If you enter into a dispute following the advance phase, if you land on a workspace occupied by an office supply token, claim that token and place it face up. So this is how you get tokens. Okay, he moves here. Red gets this token, this donut token. This red guy moves here, collects this coffee token, which they'll use later. This manager will move 2 spaces. So, let's say he moves 1, 2. Now, he'll collect both the token from the place that he passed and the place that he is in. So, 2. Now, you'll notice that he owns three bases, 3 territories. So on his next turn, he will recruit 3, which can be converted into, which anytime you get 3 together, which they can, like if these two, say these 2 got together, you can move the 2 together or split them up. Anytime you get 3 of them together, you can create a manager. So that's basically movement. Now, for the sake of argument, coffee allows you to move 2 additional workspaces. So, say he used the coffee, his manager used the coffee. His manager can move 2 additional workspaces, which would be boom, boom, and get further away from his people, or he could be boom, boom, and get this. But boom, boom here would give him 2 more tokens. This here tells you what each one does. He doesn't have any toners, so I can't show you what that does. But he does have some donuts. He could, if he wanted to, theoretically, take this, discard it, and he'll get a donut piece. He can discard it for a donut piece. He can put the donut with his manager. That way, he has a better chance. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, it was green's turn next, so that we can show you how disputes work. Since the only card... Alright. He got a stapler and a sticky note. Red rolled a 4. Green rolled... There's a dispute going on right here. Now the donut during the dispute Okay, a donut pawn entices an opponent's manager or intern of your choice into the workforce side for the duration of the dispute. So, Red rolled a 4, but he enticed this intern to join him for the dispute, and that gave Red a 5 because he has an edge person due to the donut. And Green rolled the 1 here, so they can use a sticky note to prevent their guy from getting fired, and they can use a stapler if they wanted to add 1 to the roll, which would only make it a 2. So it really wouldn't help them out much, because they would prevent their manager from getting fired, and they would lose this character to Red, who would then, this Green would convert to Red, and their manager would have to back off 1 space, and that would end Green's turn. Even if they would have to use this to save their character, but using this would be dumb, unless they have some other card they can use. They don't have that, so they can't use those cards. So that's how a dispute would work, basically. Yellow sees that Red is getting 2 power, and Red's is the next player's turn, so they're going to use that card. And this is the end of round 1. Now, Blue finally got where he can have 3 guys. You take these 3 guys and you convert them
if I get the part for it.
Okay. Well, I got some change.
Into a manager. He's going to use a donut to also give that manager a donut. Now, if you notice, in this particular scenario now, Blue already has conquered half of the winning condition. Because you only need a manager and employee, and 4. Red has yet to do that. Green has yet to do that, but Blue has half the winning condition. Here is what the board looks like after round 2. As you see, you don't get... In Classic Risk, you have to keep at least 1 man on every territory. This particular risk, you don't. That's one difference. Now we're having our second dispute of the game. Actually, we're going to have our third dispute. Red's going to roll 1, 2, 3, 4. Green's going to roll 1, 2, so Green lost. Here, Red rolls 2, Green rolls 2, but Red has an extra point. Well, Red converts that, but because of the donut. Red converts him because of the donut, converts him because of the donut, fires him, Green, and wins both battles. Red also created a 3 here, so 3 convert into a manager. Red now has 2, well, almost has 2 of the victory conditions out of 4. We got another dispute going on. Blue rolled that, Green rolled that. The donuts cancel each other out. 4, 5, 6, 5, So, in this particular case, green dies, donut dies, and green's out of the game. But did green have something that could help them in the card wise? No. They had this, which really didn't help them. So their cards go away. Because there's no rule that says you get to keep the cards, so I guess they go in the discard pile. But green's been effectively eliminated from the game already. So there's something. From blue by blue, so now there's only 3 players left. So theoretically, if you eliminate everybody else from the game except you, you would win that way too. That would be another victory condition. This card says additional turn, so that means a whole turn, I believe. Not just an additional move, an additional turn. Damn it! Alright. Yellow just defeated red here and here. Donuts, of course, canceled each other out. Here's another dispute, which is a tie dispute. So both sides would lose one guy, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So actually, blue loses, yellow, blue. So yellow's going to lose that one and be drawn away. Yellow had sticky notes, so instead yellow used the sticky notes to prevent getting fired and ends up winning the round by doing that. Then they convert these 3 to, well, they don't need to convert those 3 to a manager. Yellow now has, as soon as they move this guy here, yellow now has victory condition here, victory condition here. Let's just say they have a victory condition there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they have 4 spots, which they would have 4 spots on their next turn, which means they win the game, and that is how you win the game. By having at least 1 manager and 1 intern employee in 1 spot. So they control finance, shipping, sales, and marketing. But more than 1 person can control an area, because it's possible that 2 people can have their condition in there. So that ends the game. Alright, now that I played the game and kind of went over through playthrough / some of the basic rules for you guys, my thoughts on the game. It's Risk, but it's like dumbed down Risk Junior simpleton version. It has some stuff that's not exactly Risk-like, and I guess that's why it's called a parody. Parodies are stuff that makes fun of stuff. That's what this is. It is a parody of Risk. It's more like a Risk Junior, I would say, and than an actual Risk. You don't get to... It's not about taking over, so to speak. It's about having more managers and more employees on your side. And taking over areas. So you don't have to keep the territories. You can leave territories. You basically, it's an area control game like Risk is, but you try to conquer based off. I mean, you can theoretically play this game without actually getting into fights and still win. So that's a little bit different from regular Risk. You can use your cards, but every time I had cards, it seemed like a lot of them weren't very useful. I mean, they were useful, but I couldn't use them because I didn't have the requirements to be able to use them. So it seems like a thing that they would add is if you have no cards that you could use to shuffle them back in, or to discard them and trade them in for 3 new cards, because a lot of times I had cards that I couldn't use. So kind of sucks to have cards you can't use. So that's one thing I have a complaint about the game. Another complaint is, well, the battles are simple. It's a simple, whoever gets the highest number wins. Managers are worth 3. You have to trade in 3 interns to get a manager. But when firing a manager, he still fires like a regular 1 person. You don't split him down to 2 interns. So he's still worth 1 person or 1 point. So like if you had a bunch of interns on the board, you could go after managers and easily, you know, take them out. Just with interns. Which makes converting interns into managers something you should do maybe later during the game. It seems like somebody could have a strategy of winning with all interns because they could take over a lot of property at the beginning of the game. And instead of converting their managers, they could just attack everybody else who has managers with a big fleet of interns and pretty much win the game by default by not having any opponents. So that seems like a problem. Another thing is there's no like bonus. You know, there's like no territory bonuses for there's no like territory bonuses. Like if you manage to somehow control all the territories in one of the various different areas, you don't get any bonus. I mean, you would get, of course, each area is 6 spaces, and getting a intern for every territory you own, that if someone's playing the game in a strategic manner, they can make sure they're getting a lot of interns at the beginning of their turn, because they could, you know, somehow decide to keep interns controlling areas instead of, because 3 interns controlling an area is better than 1 manager controlling an area from a strategic standpoint. So that's kind of flawed a little bit. Another thing I kind of don't like is the fact you don't get to decide where your interns go unless they're, you know, unless they're interns you got from the cards. So if you get interns from the cards, you get to decide where they go. But the interns that start the game at the beginning of the game, you get to put them only in 6 areas, and they have to invade. They start in the human resources area, which nobody's allowed to conquer. That's another little thing I have that I don't like, is the fact that you have these territories which are allowed to be conquered temporarily when you put your men down, when you hire your people, and then they go and invade areas to go to work. So, yeah. I mean, they're using the donuts to convince... Using the donuts to make it where other players... characters follow you is a interesting little thing. But other than that, I mean, it doesn't really do any good if both sides have a donut, because that kind of cancels each other out. And if you carry that donut with your manager, or you manage to put a lot of donuts around, you could easily fix it where you would always have the enemies on your side. Wherever you fall. That's why I was counting each person as a point too, to go with the dice, because it doesn't really show that. But what's the point in converting a opponent's intern to your side if you're not going to get like a bonus die point from it or something? I mean, it just means, I mean, the only other option I was showing is that they convert to your side when they end of the battle, which gives you a free new intern. If I did anything wrong in the game rules, or y'all have any more questions, comment them down below. And I'm guess that technically Hasbro needs to explain some of this stuff, because the rules are so simple that they don't go into detail of like hardly anything. So I just gave you the basic rules as I understood them, and kind of added a few things that seems like it needed it to be in there. And I hope y'all enjoyed this how to play Risk Office Politics. Remember, God is good all the time God is good. Jesus loves you. Keep on gaming. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. And remember to have a great day, everybody. And I don't even work in no office, so I don't know nothing about this crazy office politics. I just liked that it was a risk game, and I collect risk games, so I got another risk game. If y'all know about some office politics, comment down below, like where y'all work, where you live, and that kind of crazy stuff. Anyway, overview of the game is it's a simple Risk Junior. Needs a little bit more rules clarifications, but can be pretty much made. You can pretty much make rules or adapt rules to it so that it plays better for you. So that's not really too hard. I mean, as long as the basic rules are there of how to attack each other, how to get interns, I mean, how to hire people, how to fire people, and how to convert interns into managers, and how to recruit them, and how to move them. The basic rules are there, so if you need any more than that, you can create it on your own, which is pretty cool. Some of the cards are kind of useless if you don't have those particular things. The little stuff that you find around the office supplies and stuff, they're kind of cool. They bring a different flavor to the game because they're randomly put on the board. But the cards, for the most part, don't really do anything. I mean, if you don't have the right office supplies, you can't use most of the cards. So most of the cards, times the cards are just useless. Which kind of sucks. The idea that you can use the cards and the idea that you can help an opponent out is kind of interesting, but you can only really help them out if you have cards that allow you to do it. Which I didn't see very many of them that really helped them out very much. So, helping the opponents out is kind of dumb, but it's there. It's not really, you don't get to help them out very good, so it's not really that great. Anyway, basically, it's cool because it's Risk. It's supposed to be silly, so they actually succeeded on making it silly because it's supposed to be silly. It's supposed to be silly and dumb, which is what it is. And thus, they succeeded in what they were doing. It's supposed to be simple because Risk is kind of like a complicated thing. So to make a parody of Risk, you'd have to make one like simpler. Duh. I just wonder if they'll make some more parody Risks, like regular politics, or like I don't know. They got office politics. What about, you know, Risk Congress or something, or, you know, Risk regular politics. I know they got a Monopoly, a House Divided game that's about politics, sort of. That's presidency. But basically, it's Risk. It's Junior.
That's where Matt used to work, isn't it?
Not that one.
Huh?
Not that one. So it's a simple Risk game.
$52.
It's Risk Junior, basically. And I don't know why they would say that it's.
I had $20.
I don't know why they say it for adults.